Hey, it's Nate. Welcome to RV Farm. This year I've decided to put some vetch in the driveway. Last year we had a bit of an issue with some spiny brome grass. We're going to try and battle that this year with some spray. So we've put some vetch in. It's a Marava vetch. I sowed it first week of May here in Australia, and we come out of a really dry summer. So it's taken a bit to get established. We've had some recent rains. My sowing rate using the old conochet was around 25 kilos to the acre, which is heavy, but I don't meter that well. So I sort of count for a fair bit of loss. And at the same time, I put in 20 kilos of MAP to the acre, which is probably a little heavy, but it's just a 6 acre section along my driveway, so I go a little bit heavier to account for any issues with the cedar. So the vetch was inoculated with a class. Prior I just mix it up in a wheelbarrow before I put it in the cedar with such a small quantity, but it seems to work, and that inoculation process is to help the vetch get started and to help it form those nitrogen nodules, get a good take at the start of the season. We did come out of a very dry summer, so there wasn't a lot of ground moisture when we sowed, so it sort of sat quite dormant for a while, but it seems to be starting to come up quite well now with a bit of rain. Still very cold. We're just about the end of July, so we still got another 4 weeks ish till the start of spring. We've just had recently, I guess, about 40 mil of rain in total on this so far, but it's starting. It is a lot slower than say the oats. It's surprising. It kind of looks a bit wispy. Not a great deal on the ground, so we'll just have to see how the season pans out. Whilst I do have the ability to spray out the grasses, which is the whole goal for me putting vetch in here this year, I didn't put a pre-emergent in. I'm still learning, I guess, on chemicals, and I really try not to use them if I can. So we do have a fair bit of broadleaf come up, which is a bit late for me to be able to tackle that now. So I'm hoping come spring the vetch will smother that all out and reduce its growth. But yeah, again, it's a bit of a learning process, and trying to get that weed seed bank down to manageable levels, while still getting a decent crop and just not smashing the ground with chemicals all the time. So we can see here, so we're on quite a sandy loam soil here on my place in the Riverina. You can see there's quite a lot of broadleaf weeds coming out, and I probably should have done a pre-emergent. So our vetch is starting to come along quite nicely. Someone may have forgotten to check that the 2 of the tubes on the cedar weren't blocked, so we have got some rows in the first couple of runs that were not seeded that well. So the vetch was sown first week of May 2025, which is the first week of the last month of autumn here on the Riverina in Australia. I guess the equivalent's around November for the US. So we did that, just try sort of harness a little bit of heat that was left in the ground. It's taken a while to get up, so about 9 weeks post planting, post sowing now, and it's sort of just starting to bounce up a little bit. Probably didn't do much for the first 4 to 5 weeks. Recent little rains have just sort of got it out of the ground a little bit. I'll just get a bit of a spade here and pull up a little bit here and we'll have a look and see what's going on under the soil. So we're at 9 weeks. And that's definitely what we like to see, is some worms. And we're already starting to see some really nice nodulation on the roots, and quite an impressive root structure for a plant that's so young. Still got a long way to go, so this probably won't come up for hay until end of October, but already you can start to see the vetch is really doing its thing to help fix that nitrogen into the ground for next year's crop. I've got to be honest, I'm very happy with how that's progressed. That's awesome for a first time. Yeah, very good. So we're on a fairly sandy soil here. It's actually not bad ground on my place. It's got a little bit of body to it. So we've come over with a little 14 plate Beren's disc on the back of a 60 horsepower Deutz tractor, and gave the ground a light cultivation. Once we'd done that, I'd sort of come around with a smudge bar and sort of broke up some of the clods, and then come up and put the disc still straight on. So these are the little 14 plate discs that I've used to run over the ground prior to seeding. They're not super aggressive. I was just running them on a little Deutz 60 horsepower. Picked these up on Marketplace. They were only about $1,000, I think, but they've come in pretty handy for working up the ground prior to seeding, especially when we're leading into a bit of a dry patch before sowing. But I don't hit it too hard, just give it a bit of a tickle, just sort of break the surface a bit. Next year I'd like to try not to use the discs at all if I can, and just sort of wait for the weather to soften the ground and then just run the disc seeder. But yeah, there's the option here if I need it, and it's been good so far. So here's my little Conochet Series 2 14 run disc seeder. So I use this to put all my crops in. So this year it was the oats and the vetch. Metering wise, it's not great. It's a bit worn. So I can pretty much turn the fert box off and I'll get around 75 kilos to the hectare, just running it with it turned in the off setting. And then for the oats, I run at about setting number 7, and for the vetch I run at about 3.5. So we have our metering controls over here. I think I finished off on the oats as the last thing to go in, so it's on about 7, and then we have our metering controls for fert over on this side, and it's just sitting in the off position, and it does what I need it to do. So we're post sowing about 9 weeks, and just before the recent rain, we had 20 mil last week. I put down some SU Perfect, which is high phosphorus fertilizer. I think the application rate was I was aiming for is about 20 kilos to the acre or so. Just spread it out with a pretty simple SX sylvan spreader on the back of the tractor. Again, you know, the rates are calculations on speed and whatnot, so I just do what I can to get it as close as I can to my target application rate. It's only going to get one, that's the only application I'm going to give it, and we'll just see how that goes when we start looking at the yields at the end of the year. So this is the spreader that I use here on the farm. It's nothing super fancy, pretty readily available. You can find them pretty good on Marketplace, or even the new ones. I think it was sub $1,000. Holds about 250 kilos. And yeah, so this is what I use to put out any sort of fertilizers, what I use on the vetch and the oats. It seems to work well. I have to fill it up probably a little bit more than say a big one, but that's no big issue. Yeah, it does a pretty good job once you get the hang of the opening numbers. So this one's set on about 2, and then your travel speeds, they usually come with a sort of conversion table for different types of different speeds and different openings to get your applications right. But yeah, it seems to does a good job. I hope this gives you some insight into well, my first time in sowing vetch. Hopefully it's of some help. As the season progresses, there's not much more I'm going to do in that paddock. Is maybe run an application of spray for combating the grass as we move into spring, and then I'll look at making another video as we sort of get ready to cut for hay, and then do a breakdown on sort of the bales per acre, what sort of yield we get off it, and then a rough idea of cost per bale. Thanks for watching. Cheers.